Welcome you all. So for this today's official lecture, so today we are supposed to discuss the uh, electromechanical methods. We will continue our discussions from the uh, lecture number one. And if you see that the first uh, method of measurement, we are considering the D Arsenal meter moment, or in other words, it is also called permanent magnet moving coil, or in short, very popular name PMMC. Nothing new, it's almost 60 70 years old, but very established technique. Still today, if you will go for any analog measurement of as a voltmeter or ammeter application, particularly for the DC applications, note it down, okay? Your home supply is the AC supply. So I'm not talking about AC. For the DC applications, which is very popular in the industries and in your day-to-day applications of the industry applications and in some other applications also. So in those applications, field-based measurement like power systems, communication engineering, okay, all these field applications you see. So the DC measurement is very popular. It is so accurate. Okay, I repeat that it is so accurate that this PMMC technique is also used, is very very popular to as a secondary standard. Now, when I say secondary standard, this is one first assignment I'm giving you, that try to distinguish between the primary standard and secondary standard. Note down this question. Try to uh, okay distinguish between primary standards and secondary standards. Okay? So try to write it down this briefly. This answer maybe you can draw a column and point wise you try to answer. So primary standard, remember, it's required highly sophisticated facilities. Okay, like in India, the some of the one of the lab in Delhi, that is NPL, called National Physical Laboratory, take the responsibilities when it we talk about the measurement of time, frequency, and some basic aspects. Okay, so the distance between the Earth and your star, that is the sun, and all these things. On the other hand, some physical parameters, those have been okay measured in our day-to-day life. But remember, those primary standards cannot be shifted. You have to reach there and do the measurement because it required highly state-of-the-art facilities, extremely costly and extremely sensitive. So it is generally do for the testing purpose, scientific testing purpose. But the secondary standard can be used in your day-to-day industry applications life, and there PMMC rules plays a very very critical role. We will see this particular answer. We'll try to find out these answers at the uh, later stage when we discuss these techniques in detail. So today we are supposed to see this first method, that is the PMMC technique. So first of all, this technique is a current sensitive device. If somebody is asking that whether it is a voltage sensitive device or current sensitive device, so answer, it's a current sensitive device. That means what? With the variation in current, the response of the device gets changed. Okay, the response is basically measurement angle. So that is the theta. Fine. So this moment of this spindle, this arrow you see, okay, which is marking the indication between that whether the things is responding or not, or whether the measurement is occur or not, is based on the current sensitivity. Okay? So if you value the change the amplitude of the current, magnitude of the current, the response will change. Then what is the range? You can appreciate that it's highly classified. So the range is 10 microampere to 100 milliampere. So what if you are trying to penetrate or directly trying to directly feed 5 ampere? Your device will instantly damaged. Okay, it will instantly damaged because the coil is extremely thin, and that's why the measurement is so sensitive. Fine. So coil resistance, remember, it varies from 10 ohm to 1 kilo ohm. That means the respective voltage what you supposed to provide or will measure, that is something is varying from microvolt to 1 volt size. You look at the sensitivity, and what supply you got is 230 volt average RMS value. Fine. So where you can use, obviously, the DC emitter and DC voltmeters, most popular applications. But you can also use it as a for the AC applications whenever you got the AC supply. Remember that. But you can do this with the help of the rectifiers. Fine. So that is what it is. So let's see. So basically, what is the principle of this permanent magnet moving coil? Okay. So what we do, you can appreciate in this particular circuit diagram. You see the two end where it is mentioned meter terminal connections. So through one particular end, remember it is a DC measurement. So if it is a DC measurement, the polarity must have been mentioned. It's a mandatory for each and every DC measuring devices. So whenever the current flows in the circuit, okay, is passes through this particular meter coil where it is mentioned wire coil, that meter coil. So it induces, it tried to generate the heat. So because of that, what happened that the current will flow, and the two magnets you try to see, okay, the better picture probably you can get here. So PM stands for your permanent magnet. Okay, you see this is your permanent magnet. In between the spindle is there, through which your actually meter is varying. The pointer is actually varying. PR is stands for your pointer. Okay, so that is varying. So in between two soft iron pieces, this soft iron pieces is holded here, and this soft iron piece is exposed to the two permanent magnet, okay, in the where it is mentioned north and south pole. Now if you change the direction of the current, north and south pole will change. So PM stands for permanent magnet, remember. Okay, so and this PP, that means the two side PP is mentioned, that is nothing but it's a soft iron pole piece. So this soft iron piece is exposed to the permanent magnet, and within through the coil, wire coil, you are supplying the current. So what happened, this the magnetic field of the soft iron will exposed to the magnetic field of the permanent magnet, and because of this the coil is influenced to flow. Why? Because it will generate a torque. Okay, so this respective torque is excited, okay, in the wire coil, is supposed on a current carrying coil, you can say, okay, which is placed in the field of a permanent magnet. That is the principle of PMMC. That is how it works. So this is the former structural diagram, or you can say that the front view and the top view of the metal cuspice of the PMMC device. So from here you can absorb. Okay. Now you see that a spring is mentioned in both the side. A spring is mentioned, and then there is a spindle. Okay. So what is the job of this? This spring and spindle are basically used to establish, to control the movement of the pointer. Otherwise what happened, there will be a, once you feed the current, there will be a sudden movement in the pointer from the, let's say, left to right side. Okay, in that case what will happen, the needle will straight away struck to the uh, rightmost side, and it could be damaged even. Okay, it could be broken also. So to control the movement of the pointer, you also require some mechanism, and this mechanism we develop with the help of a eddy current principle damping. Okay, so try to work out, understand that what is eddy current damping. Okay, so this is your assignment number 2. So noted down both the questions. Okay, so how the eddy current damping works. Okay. Just try to briefly answer it in 2 to 3 lines. Okay, no theory. Clear? You can draw a circuit, that is fine, but don't uh, uh, try to explain in theory too much. Okay, try to finish up your answer in 3 to 4 lines. That's all, maximum. Yeah. So eddy current damping, this is principle. How, why eddy current damping will work? Because remember there is a two magnetic field where basically if the current is passing through the coil, what will happen? It will generate a heat, and whenever a heat is exposed, okay, in the field of the magnetic field, so what happened? It induces the torque, okay, and that is why it pointer is moving or is forced to move in a particular direction. Okay, and to control it, and obviously it will try to generate a reciprocal response. Okay, with that will be done with the help of this couple of the springs is mounted in the upper and the lower side of the spindle, with the help of which you will be able to control. Let's see the mathematics, you will be get the better understanding. Let's say assume that B is the amount of flux density in the air gap, which is measured across the Webers per meter cubic. I is the amount of current in ampere. L is the effective axial length of the coil in meter. B is the breadth. N is the number of turns. So remember, all these are constant. The only variable is the current. Fine. Once the material is fixed, the flux density is also fixed. So therefore, the amount of force which is mounted over one side of the coil. Okay, you look at the circuit diagram. Over the one side of the coil. So do you remember total distance breadth is the B, and you mentioned it is B by 2 in each side from the center point. So in one side of the coil, how much force it is going to induce? that is B into I into L into N. Okay, so therefore in the two sides it's what happened, B into I into L into N multiply by 2. This is the total amount of force across the total breadth of the coil. So half of the breadth is this, therefore torque is how much in that particular side, B by 2. So that's what I'm trying to answer, fine. Or that in other words 2T is the total amount of torque experienced by the each side of the coil, which is nothing but it is the amount of deflection torque. Okay, so this is your question number 3. Okay, you try to work out the deflection torque exerted on a coil when you consider PMMC type electromechanical measurement or technique method for the measurement of voltage or current. That is the question. Okay. So in other words, you have to work out the deflection torque exerted on a coil. So what is the total amount of deflection torque? That is 2 into T. So you know the on one side how much torque. So that is 2T. That is B into I into L into N into B. Now you see what is the variable? Only current. So that means the deflection torque is proportional to I. Let's say that proportionality constant is K1. As I've been told you, you required some control mechanism. Otherwise, what happened? Your pointer will be gets damaged. Okay, it will be broken. So you whenever you apply that control mechanism, so that mechanism in this particular method is applied based on the couple of branch springs, is made of branch, okay, and a spindle. So let's say that control is exerted of which over the response, and response is your angle, that is theta. So that means the amount of control torque. I am assuming that if the control torque is represented by TC, is represented by the symbol TC. So your TC is proportional to theta. So let's say that proportionality constant is K2. You can write K as K2, whatever is fine. So the moment when the pointer will experience a steady state condition, that means the pointer will steady, okay, will be fixed or is experiencing no movement. That is only possible whenever your control torque is equal to the deflection torque, or in other words, the response theta is proportional to I. That means what? If you are trying to draw a curve between theta and I, because the ratio by K2 by K1 or K1 by K2 is ultimately a constant. So that means this instrument offers you a perfect linear, or in other words, uniform scale. That's why the measurement, whenever you try to measure the DC or value of the voltage or the current with the help of PMMC device, you get highly linear response, or in other words, perfect linear response. Fine? Theoretically, practically, what problem you will face, we'll talk a little later. Fine? So that is the reason that why it is used for the secondary measurement purpose. Clear? So now question comes. We said, I already told you that for the damping purpose, whenever you apply this control, okay, damping to establish the to achieve the control, that we will do with the help of the eddy current damping. Okay. Now, what is the impact of the temperature? Because ultimately these coil are made of the coppers, clear, and copper is experiencing to a temperature. Okay, all the conductors are exposed to the temperature. Fine. So in that case, what generally we do, that we apply a small resistor, a special resistor, okay, in series to the this particular coil. But remember, because this coil is no coil is a perfect inductor, it has some resistance because of the property or limitation of the permeability of the material. Okay, material permeability is not infinite, it's a finite. So therefore you can say that what will happen if you will apply a specially constructed special made resistor which offers a very low temperature variation, almost zero, you can say that. It also varies with temperature, but that piece of resistor which is made is of different material as compared to this copper coil. So what will happen? The permeability of that particular material should be very, very high. And if you will apply that particular resistor in series with this particular coil, what will happen? That temperature, variation of the temperature in that particular resistor will be very low. And the resistance of that particular resistor, and the resistance, a small amount of resistance offered by the coil, because it is a coil, so it is primarily an inductor. So resistance is already very low. Fine. So the amount of resistance offered by that series resistor is very, very high as compared to this resistance. What will happen? All the temperature impact, over this particular coil will be shucked, or you can say in other words, it will be swamped by this particular series connected resistance, and that's why it is called swamping resistor. That is the answer, that how you can maintain a perfect resistance, that means a perfect linear curve between the theta and I, by applying that particular swamping resistor in series with the coil. Okay, so I hope that you got this answer. So remember that as far as the DC connection is concerned, I have been already told you that it should be always a terminal polarity should have been mentioned. It is mandatory because in AC, what happened, in each half cycle the polarity is changed, but not in DC. Okay, so you have to got connect whenever you establish a connection. The positive should be connected with the positive, and the negative polarity should be connected with the negative. Otherwise, you won't get any response. Okay, so that's why in all DC measuring devices, polarity is already clearly mentioned. What about AC? AC is not that, but you know that AC supply is a frequency driven signal. Okay, it's a frequency dependent signal. So what if I am assuming for the electrical and electronic measurement purpose, not for the communication application. In communication applications, the high frequency is something we called 1 megahertz or higher. Okay, range, even maybe 100 kilohertz and higher, but not in electrical measurement. In case of the electrical measurement, you may consider 50 hertz or any value higher than 50 hertz as a high frequency applications. Okay, whereas then what is the low frequency? Low frequency is something 0.1 hertz or even lower than that. So if you will apply such a low frequency AC signal, remember frequency is reducing, so that means time period of the signal is expanding. So if the f is tending to 0, so t is tending to infinite, that means the AC signal is trying to converge itself into towards the DC. Understood? So whenever you apply these kind of signals, okay, the pointer deflection is increases to the maximum at the peak of the AC values. Remember, it is influenced to the AC, but it will follow the DC lag frequency. So pointer is tends to follow the instantaneous value of the AC. But if it is reverse, if you are considering very high frequency signals, in that case the average value of that particular pointer deflection will be zero. That means if you will apply a normal supply, let's say we will provide a 5 ampere 50 hertz signal, and then somehow with the help of a mechanism we try to control the current. We apply a shunt resistance, try to bypass maximum current and allow only the amount of current which is ranging between microampere to milliampere, that 10 microampere to 100 milliampere range, and will supply that particular current, but the frequency is 50 hertz. What will happen? Your reading will get zero, because the average value of that particular voltmeter or emitter will be zero. Okay, the average response of that particular emitter or voltmeter will be zero. Okay, but that doesn't mean the current is not supplying. Okay, maybe your that time the instrument is experiencing very large amount of RMS value of the current, because current is flowing, but the deflection you are getting zero. Clear? So now let us we converge to the AC applications. So what if we will go for AC measurement? Can we do it? Yes, we can do it, but we may not get that much sensitive result, that much accurate result. Why? We will get try to find out the answer through with the help of rectifications. I hope that you must have studied this briefly under the head of your inter sciences syllabus 11th and 12th. But let's see in a detail, and also under the heads of first year courses. So let's see, we consider the first half wave rectification. What is half wave rectification? We can achieve it with the help of by applying a diode. It can be a vacuum diode, remember, is nowhere now used, or copper oxide rectifiers. This vacuum diode, these ages are gone. Okay, now from past 20 years, around 2 decades, we use the semiconductors or the crystal diode only. Other than one of some rare application where we required vacuum diodes, we might have used almost 8 or 10 years back in high power application, but now that is also gone. So we typically use the crystal diode or semiconductor diode or thyristerized based diodes. Okay. High current diode, and you can say that amplifiers are there. We will study about it later on. Crystal diode is a very low current device, okay, not a very high current. But for our understanding, let's say we are given a supply as mentioned in this particular diagram of 10 volt of RMS value, and there we consider a 10 kilo ohm resistance, and we apply a series resistance to the diode and we supply it. So what will happen? This diode is basically a semiconductor device. Okay, so it will experience it can give you a faithful response only in the forward direction only, and in the reverse direction ideally no response. Practically the response can be neglected as compared to forward bias value magnitude of the current. So therefore you see in this sinusoidal diagram it is shown that the uh, upper line is the solid line, so that means the signal is allowed to pass, and the lower part is the dashed line, that means it is cut. Okay, it is not allowed to pass. So if you will apply, so what will be the average value of that particular voltage? So average value is peak upon pi, and what is RMS value? That is peak by 2, right? So if you are going to establish a relation between average value of the voltage, because if you do not apply this, then what response you are getting for the high frequency signal? Zero. Okay, so remember that condition is still lying. Okay, you are considering relatively lower frequency. So VRMS value, what we will get almost in terms of V average, I'm sorry, in terms of VRMS, that is 0.45 times of the RMS value. So supply current voltage is RMS supply, but you are trying to work out the average voltage at the output end, at the measurement end, where it is mentioned meter. So meter is measuring the average voltage, and it is getting 145 times of VRMS. That means what? That means if the supply input is 10 volt, what you will be able to measure through this particular meter, this PMMC device, you can only measure, you will get response 4.5 volt average value rather than 10 volt. So that means the sensitivity is only 45%. So there we are compromising. Whenever you are trying to measure a AC signal, you can measure, but the sensitivity will be very, very poor. Okay, you can enhance this sensitivity by applying a forward resistance. That is the right answer. Go through it. I'm skipping. So there is a one more construction diagram. Now you see we apply one more diode, okay, in a shunt manner through this particular diode across the resistance D1. Both are parallelly connected. So what will happen? Now we'll establish a series connection through this shunt resistance. Remember, this PMMC device has some, each meter has some resistance. So that resistance is reflected by RM. Now across this PMMC device, what you do, you try to apply a shunt resistance. So with the help of this shunt resistance, what will happen? Because if your input current is a 5 ampere current, so rest of the 5 ampere, and if you want to only feed, say for example, 0.1 milliampere, or I will say that 1 milliampere. So then what you will do with the rest 4.9999 ampere? So that remaining current will be bypassed through this shunt resistance. So do you have a two job? It will protect your measuring device, otherwise your device would have been damaged. And number two, this bypass current will feed through now, because there is a hardly difference between 5 ampere and 4.99 ampere. But I think an example I have taken. So in this remaining, this bypass current will feed through the D2. So whenever D1 is in a forward condition, D2 is in a reverse condition. Whenever D2 is in experiencing a forward condition, at that moment for that particular cycle of the AC signal, half of the cycle of the AC signal, D1 will experience a reverse bias. So that's how you can improve the sensitivity, but still it will be never close to or equal to the true RMS value. In other words, you can say that you can measure the AC signal, but the PMMC device is not supporting you to measure the true RMS value of the voltage or current. That is the limitation of this particular device. So let's briefly see what are the advantages and disadvantages of this particular mechanism. Okay, so first, as I been told you, it's a current sensitive device. So it's extremely, therefore, it is extremely sensitive to even a small amount of variation of the current. Number two, highly accurate and reliable. Okay, because of its high accuracy, this device is extremely popular to be used as a secondary standard device. Secondary standard device to calibrate. Why we use this standard device? To calibrate the measuring device. Whatever device we are supposed to use, first we should calibrate it so that this device should give you true or faithful result. Okay, it should not give you miscalculation. Clear? So to calibrate the other devices, we use PMMC device particularly for the DC applications. Okay, how much range of the measurement it can offer? It can offer you almost more than 270 degree or more. Not perfectly 360 degree, but 270 degree or more it can measure. Okay, very effectively built in damping, because it is a eddy current damping. So obviously eddy current damping is a very popular. Okay, because current is extremely sensitive uh, uh, parameter, you can say. So therefore it is very popular as compared to any other air damping or other kind of damping schemes. Okay, try to work out and see that how many possible damping methods are possible. That is your question number 4, assignment question number 4. How many method of dampings are there? Okay, as far as the electrical and electronic measuring instruments are concerned. Okay, noted down all these questions. Okay, how many possible of dampings are there? Yeah. Number two, one more thing, advantage, it's a very low power consuming device. Why? Because if you see the voltage, it is you are getting hardly from 10 microvolt to 1 volt. Okay, so the amount of power, if you will work out voltage and current, it varies roughly around something 25 microvolt to 200 microvolt watt. So that means if you will use for the supply purpose rather than a DC direct supply, if you will use some battery kind of arrangement, it is very low power consuming device. That means the battery ages will last long once you is enabled. That's why in the field measurement, as far as the direct measurement are concerned, DC values are concerned for the communication applications, for the direct measurement of the signals, because most of the abstract signals you are getting in a DC values. Okay, so there it is a very popular scheme, little cumbersome method, but it is very popular. Okay, so I'll tell you that what are the solution of this cumbersome word I use. Okay, heaviness, some other scheme we will see, it's very popular in near future. Okay, it's free from the hysteresis loss. Why there is no hysteresis loss? If you will see the structure of this construction, you see a permanent magnet, this portion is the permanent magnet. Okay, this permanent magnet is completely surrounding this soft iron piece where the pointer is mounted. So that means where you are experiencing the control torque or the damping torque, okay, deflection torque, this particular pointer is completely free, or the coil is basically where the coil is mounted exactly in the midpoint. Fine, it is passing through this particular pointer, this splinter. So this coil is completely free from the external exposure of the magnetic field. Assuming that wherever the measurement you are doing in the near surrounding area, there is a one more magnetic field is also present, which may or may not related to your application. Okay, or maybe Earth is a very high um, magnetism. Okay, and it is much high as compared to this particular device. So these things will not influence you whenever you will pursue your measurement using PMMC. So that's why it is free from the hysteresis loss. Okay, what are the disadvantage? Let us see very quickly. Okay, obviously the type of instrument is highly suitable for the DC application, but it is only suitable for the DC application, not for the AC application, because in AC application your pointer will remains at zero position because you are trying to measure the average value, and the average value of the DC or AC supply will be always zero, not RMS value. That's why I said that current is still passing through the coil, maybe very high current is passing through the coil, but you may not get the measurement. Okay, it will expose the edging effect because there is a permanent magnet and the control spring is there, and both are experiencing the edging effect. Okay, so that's why with the time, with the years, not in months, with the 10, 20, 25 years, then the performance of device may be deteriorated little bit. It will be sluggish in a very slow pace, but it will be there. Clear? So in DC measurement, what is the okay role of this low resistance, that is called the shunt resistance? Okay, so it is used basically to protect, to bypass the additional amount of current. Let's see, for example, in this particular demonstration, you can see I is the total amount of current which is supplying, and the current which should pass through the emitter is Im. Now Im value of Im is very low as compared to total amount of current. So what will happen if you will feed the total current through a full deflection current through the particular meter? So it will completely damage your or collapse your device, right? So therefore you required a protective mechanism for this particular device, and that is the reason we use the shunt resistance. And this, remember, the value of shunt resistance should be very high. Okay, so the shunt resistance should be very low as compared to the meter resistance, so that the maximum amount of current will bypass, I would say, through the shunt resistance, and only the controlled amount of current, required amount of current, will pass through the meter, and through which you will pursue your measurement. That's how the ammeter is constructed. Okay, can you increase the range of this particular ammeter? Yes, we can increase the range of the ammeter measurement, because the true range you are getting between some 10 microampere to 100 milliampere. Can I increase the range of current measurement? Can I increase the range of voltage measurement? Answer is yes. That we will see in the following slides, maybe in some other lectures. Okay, this is one example I have given you. Try to go through it. Okay, so just fundamental direct formula based question. Okay, so with this we are ending up our today's discussion, I would say. And if you have any doubt, you can discuss with me. I'm here for the couple of minutes. Otherwise, we'll disperse. Uh, for the further discussions, we will pursue whenever we are meeting in our next lecture. That is the lecture number 3. That is all from my end. So, if you have any other questionnaires, you can come up. Otherwise, we will wind up here itself. No question? Okay. So with this, I am finishing up